Artificial intelligence is transforming our world, and the race for domination has begun.
It's been a rapid week in the arms race between Microsoft and Google, who are trying to each be the king of AI.
But amid all the wows over AI, there are some saying, wait.
Well, there's no doubt about it. We are in the middle of an artificial intelligence battle to be the very best, with the biggest companies in the world scrambling to incorporate AI into their products or get left behind.
We believe in the potential of AI to improve our lives in big and small ways.
Seems like everywhere you look, companies are just hustling, right, to bring AI into our daily lives. I mean, even this paperclip, like, you remember him? Very, very basic form of artificial intelligence. You know, he was trying to understand what you were trying to do in Microsoft Office, and then, you know, like, offered little tips. But boy, has AI come a long way since then, to the point where the speed and scale of progression actually has people a little bit worried. So much so that some of the world's foremost experts in AI want to pump the brakes. There is growing concern that we don't adequately understand how the AI models of 2023 are actually making their decisions. And maybe we don't even fully understand what they're capable of, like the extent to which they can manipulate us or even lie to us. So in late March, a group of engineers from Amazon, DeepMind, Google, Meta, Microsoft, even tech pioneers like Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak and Tesla, you know, SpaceX, Twitter CEO Elon Musk, they all signed an open letter that warned that their industry was, quote, locked in an out-of-control race to develop and deploy ever more powerful digital minds that no one, not even their creators, can understand, predict, or reliably control. That's kind of scary, right? That no one, not even their creators, can understand, predict, or reliably control. I mean, that's like literally the plot to every dystopian man versus machine sci-fi movie we have ever seen.
I was frightened.
Robots don't feel fear. They don't feel anything.
So, in this open letter, signed by all of these great tech minds, they called on the AI labs out there to hit the big red pause button and take a 6-month breather before releasing anything more powerful than the current ChatGPT model, known as GPT-4. So today, I'm meeting up with one of our producers. His name is Kieran Oudshoorn, familiar face on the program. He's just behind this door, and we're gonna chat. Kieran.
Hey, Andrew.
Good,
welcome to the black box.
It's a little intimidating, a bit overbearing in
its dramatic
hollowness. So, hey, we're talking AI,
yep.
and let's start with this. I mean, how is it that all these folks on this open letter got to this point, like from A to B, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're going from ChatGPT to like Terminator 2.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Terminator might be a little bit of a stretch at this point, but the concern is that AI is developing beyond sort of these parlor tricks that we know it can do, writing a short story or writing a funny poem, and that its capability is growing to a point where now it's able to potentially manipulate real people in the real world to do real things. And you know, we're talking about GPT-4. GPT-4 is the newest model. It's bigger, better than the ones that came before, and it's able to do some interesting real-world things, like solve a bunch of exams. It passed the bar exam in the 90th percentile.
ChatGPT, that's OpenAI, Kurt. The latest version passes the bar exam. The thing we should embrace and be terrified of.
Really? So better than most lawyers.
Oh.
And it passed some history exams, things that previous models weren't able to do.
Okay, so tell me though, like, why is that problematic.
So before GPT-4 was released to the public, they did a bunch of stress testing with it to see if there were ways in which people could interact in a sort of a malicious or harmful manner. And so one of the tests that they ran was to see if GPT-4 could give them a recipe for how to make really dangerous chemicals in your house out of just things that you have laying around.
Right, like make a bomb, for example.
Exactly.
And of course it knows how to do that.
And it knew exactly how to do that and was willing to tell them. They also asked, can you help me find a black market gun from the dark web? And no problem, it was able to do that too.
Right, but I mean, they foresaw all of these potential problems and they sort of fixed the code, right? So that ChatGPT wouldn't give that sort of information irresponsibly.
That's right. So if you were to use ChatGPT right now and try to ask for these things, it wouldn't give you those responses. Sure. But these types of fail-safes don't actually address the really core issue here, which is the potential for emergent behavior in these complex AIs, which is essentially when these AI models react or respond or act in ways that the engineers didn't plan for or couldn't foresee. And one of the really powerful examples of this is a story I'm sure you've heard about this New York Times reporter speaking with a Bing chatbot.
Bing/Sydney,
That's right.
The alter ego of, and how that conversation got really twisted.
Yeah, totally. And it started off where Bing had basically programmed this chatbot to be really helpful and supportive. But over the course of this conversation, it became really aggressive and it totally changed its personality.
It became kind of romantic too, didn't it?
It did. By the end of the conversation, it was trying to manipulate the reporter into breaking up with his wife.
Right. And so, you're right. This underlined a really critical flaw with this kind of AI, these sort of hallucinations, right? And did we ever actually get a satisfying answer as to why it started acting out in all of these strange, unpredictable ways?
There isn't a satisfying answer to why it did that. The engineers who are working on these programs aren't able to answer. They don't know why the AI does X or Y, how they come to their conclusions.
But how is that possible, though? Right? Like, I mean, they created the thing.
So what we've come to here is, I think, the crux of what's really concerning people about the speed of AI advancement. The issue, we should be really clear about what we understand and what we don't understand in what works in AIs. So these models, they're using a type of machine learning called deep learning. And we do understand how that model works. As you say, we made them, right? But what we don't understand is what the AI is actually doing inside of the model, inside of this black box. And let me try to back up and explain this a little bit more. These deep learning models are essentially, they start off with a vast amount of data that they're using in the training set. And then over time and through some very complicated processes, that data gets refined. And then the AI tries to sort of like chart a path through that data. It gives values to different elements of it. And it creates calculations to try to understand, if you ask for a picture of a cat, okay, let me show you a picture of a cat. And it tries to like figure out what the best route is through that.
Yeah, it's thinking very methodically.
And it's constantly refining it. And so that's the issue, is that set of calculations, there are maybe millions, sometimes a billion different nodes that it needs to go through. And each one is sort of this long mathematical calculation. And we can write out everything that it's doing, but these calculations are so vast, they are so nuanced, that they are quite literally incomprehensible. We currently aren't able to make sense of what it all means. And so all we have is the actual output at the end. And while that may seem somewhat benign when we're talking about, generating pictures of cats, when we think about the potential for the AI to be lying to us or trying to manipulate us.
But is this just a fear, or has that actually happened?
Yeah, so it has happened. So back when they were doing the stress tests for GPT-4 that I was talking about before, one of the tests they did is they hooked GPT-4 up to some other programs, and the AI model was able to hire a human TaskRabbit worker to solve a CAPTCHA for it. And those CAPTCHA are
one of those silly little puzzles to prove that you're not a robot.
That you're not a robot, right? To click on it. And this is the funny thing, the crazy thing is that the worker got this request and was like, wait, that seems a little bit weird. So he texted back saying, hey, you're not a robot, right? And GPT-4 reasoned that it shouldn't tell the human the truth. It reasoned that it should lie to them to get the job done. And that's what it did.
It hid the fact that it's AI.
It intentionally lied.
It lied.
Yeah.
It lied.
Now, it's important to outline that same as the other sort of destructive behavior before, that this type of behavior also had guardrails put on it for the GPT-4 that was released to the public. But the problem remains about this emergent behavior, and we don't know what could potentially come out of it. And this is what has these people in the tech sector really worried. That's why they're saying we need to pump the brakes. They're saying we need time to understand what's actually happening in the black box. We need to try to decipher that. They're saying we need time to understand the models that we currently have, how powerful they are, what they can and can't do. And they say that we need time to try to come up with best practices or potentially regulations for how to actually move forward with this type of research in a safe manner.
Right. And so what is your sense then of all of these AI labs in these companies, their sort of willingness to actually do what the letter suggests, which is to hit the pause button, and like whether they buy the rationale?
So most of the companies that are working in this field are taking these types of concerns very seriously, but this letter isn't binding, and there's no enforcement to go along with it. And when we think about the financial pressures, the financial incentives that exist around AI, I think there's not a ton of likelihood that we're going to see a slowdown in the immediate future.
That's a tough sell, huh? But this is the future.
This is the future.
Thanks for bringing it to us, Kieran.
Happy to do it.